Look at this. We're back. We're looking back at better than ever. We have a new overlay. We have a opening video specific to this program. Moving up in World Oracle. How you feeling tonight, pal?
Fantastic. I'll be eating a Hardee's meal.
Yeah.
So apologies for my typical smacking, and of course I was, late, traditional, as usual. That's become a, fashion of mine. Fashionably late would probably be the better term.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, it's all those WWE creative meetings you're having to come in and out of, right?
Yeah,
It makes it really makes it like kind of challenging. How does it feel to get the big intro treatment from the great confirmed shoot, Oracle?
It feels special.
It does, right? It does.
Feels special. I feel like I'm important now. Finally.
To quote shoot, Oracle deserves it, which is a good sentiment. I agree with that absolutely. Before we get into our usual show, I want to show some love to the pal JJ, who sent in a super grin. He says, and I quote, "Oh, how the month of June for WCW is quite incredible indeed." We'll get into that. The fact how good it gets so quickly from the months of February and March. Grand American Bash was tremendous. And I need Oracle's best dusty impression for the lady in the men's toilet. Pop. Oracle, would you like to do that now or later?
We'll do it later when we talk about the match.
Okay, good. All right, okay, there you go, JJ. You will get the impression. Indeed, though, one of the big topics of today will be just the general shift in WCW, and it's quite the month for them. If you would like to send a super chat or a super grin the way that JJ just did, you can do so at streamlabs.com/late night grin. We always appreciate those. We get all of that money. It is not nearly as confusing as Twitch, which I'm still figuring out what that even means, getting paid by Twitch. There's like a threshold. There's many different things going on, but I think I figured it out. So either way, we appreciate the support. Okay. It's been a while, Oracle, right? We decided we were going to kind of give ourselves a little bit of breathing room there after the first kind of season or portion, whatever you would like to call it, of the Monday Night Wars. June is a pivotal month in every which way. Before we get into that, though, let's try best we can, even though it's hard to cover so much. Set the scene for where we're at heading into this month, because it has been a while. So kind of catch everyone out on the immediate happenings before we get into the month itself.
Yeah, so in terms of WWF, they're kind of wrapping up their spring programs. King of the Ring was kind of their, it was really a Big Five show at the time. So they're wrapping up the Sean Davey Boy program. They're starting to really push those mid carders, and Austin and Mero and whatnot. You've got Taker Mankind feud. They finally got their match with King of the Ring, and that becomes, they're really kind of, they built to that match all spring. Finally getting the first match there. Just kind of like sort of finalizing those spring programs and then sort of jumping right into the summer, headstrong in a lot of ways. Vader's kind of already starting to get kind of, elevated a little bit more. He's kind of being shuffled around in the King of the Ring tournament, but they're kind of setting him up for Sean's next opponent, whatnot. Yeah. ECW is really kind of really ramping up their summer. Hardcore Heaven was a huge show. Talk about that a lot tonight. Their best show in a long time. Not even just in terms of match wise. In fact, there really wasn't much great matches at all on that show, but just in terms of energy and story and sort of ECW-ness, it was kind of peak. So that's a major show and kind of gets a lot of very famous and infamous things rolling. WCW, of course, we talked about in May, which was a few months ago now. Hall coming in. Obviously, the first week Nash comes in, and we'll cover that greatly here. Just basically the pieces sort of being put together for the NWO angle.
Yeah.
There's already kind of some teases for the Hogan turn even. was clear that was kind of being muddled around. No one just really believed it, and it wasn't really the type of wasn't really. I don't even know what to say. It wasn't even like on everybody's like top list, right? It was just kind of like a name that was being thrown around. But he is teased somewhat on TV, so it's a lot of that. But I don't know. You just feel like when you watch WCW, everybody's kind of motivated and
it's finally clicking. So
there's a vibe to it. The 2-hour nitros ended up kind of being a huge benefit.
Yes,
and things are really clicking, and of course, the Horsemen sort of get rearranged in an all-time great angle, and we'll talk about that tonight as well.
Absolutely. So
got to definitely give Mongo some love since I know he's not doing well.
It's a bummer, man. It really is. We will get to that very shortly. Immediately so, in fact, because WCW won last time. I believe they took the last 2 weeks there of the month. But they're about to become much, much more dominant than that. Clean sweep here for WCW. They'd actually managed this before. I believe it was December of 95, I want to say it was. But it has to be said, this is a very different kind of role they're on here. This is a very different shape they're taking. It's about to be some iconic professional wrestling television. It already kind of is at this point. Clean sweep for WCW. So let's get into it. We start with them. June 96, of course. Their event for the month, Great American Bash 96. Now, this is a great show with many happenings, but I do think in history, the angle within the show is the real kind of the headline stealer, I think it's fair to say. So with that in mind, let's start there. We will get to the angle itself, but first, let's go a little bit before that and talk about Kevin Nash's debut. You gave his effort the best promo. Obviously, there is one particular line that is kind of infamous, but it's a great moment. And we'll get to the pay-per-view in a second. But firstly, let's start with Nash's debut, staying alongside Scott Hall, which is really, as you said, kind of the center of everything WCW here for June 96. Go ahead.
Yeah, so things get really interesting and exciting almost immediately in June. So on June 3rd, Hall comes back the next week, and Sting confronts him at the announce table. There's this great exchange between the two, where Hall's talking smack, and Sting's like, I'm right here, let's go to the ring. Hall throws his toothpick at him, and Bischoff's in the middle, trying to... And Sting slaps the absolute shit out of Hall. And so we get that, and of course Hall goes, I've got a big surprise next week, to tease Kevin Nash. So on June 10th, Nash is the big surprise, and as Joe put here on the from the chat, look at the adjective, play.
Do you think he regrets that every day? Because I would. It would make me so mad, dude. They replay it so often too,
I know. It's a great promo. He makes these great Kevin Nash lines about and making fun of old people, and just a great, and it just feels it's crazy. Like, I can't imagine being a fan at the time, 96. Particularly a fan of like Shoot or my brother's age, who was like a teenager and had been watching all this shit. And then you're like, holy shit, like it was just, those first few weeks are executed so well. Just a great couple of segments in the first few weeks of June.
How much do you think like the effectiveness of this angle was rooted in the fact that Nash and Hall really did feel some type of way about WCW, right? Like, and it was a lot of things. Firstly, the way they'd been used when they were there, but there was also definitely this perception like we were the real wrestling company over in WWF. Look at these clowns over here; they can't get anything right. Like there's and it's still to this day. If you hear Nash and Hall talk about, well, if you heard Hall talk previously and Nash to this day, you still hear they're WWF guys deep down, hilariously. that's palpable when you get these promos, right? Very much so.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, sorry, folks. I was stuffing these fries down. I don't pace myself very well when I eat.
That's fine. Would you let me fill dead air for you while you collect yourself?
Sure. I was going to say that my best friend's dad once told me, he said, "It's not going anywhere. What are you doing?"
Yeah, well,
and I was like,
it gets pretty cold though, right?
True.
By the way, folks, do I sound like normal? If not, I will tell. I have a fan here next to me, as opposed to all the great fans late night green, like an actual fan. It's very hot in Great Britain, Oracle. Not nearly as hot as I'm sure it is for you, but we aren't used to it. You know?
What is it there so I can laugh?
I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing that. It's hot, man. It's hot.
Well, let me just say, last Friday was 106 degrees. The heat index was.
Yeah, I think we're at genuinely like 90.
That's pretty hot.
I'll you
say.
gotta remember too, like I ain't built for this, fan. You know,
Yeah.
Like I hide from it, but I sound fine. JJ says okay. Okay, good. So carry on. I request you were about the outsiders and that kind of beef within the actual angle itself.
You can kind of. They were there to get paid, man, and like it's weird because they always crack me up, especially Nash. Like I hated Nash when I went back and watched this stuff when I was a teenager. But now I've gotten older, like it's just funny.
Yeah.
Like all these segments that come out in 96, 97, 98 or whatever, and they're just like making jokes and like I can't wait to talk about Halloween Havoc just because Kevin Nash beating up Randy Savage with a Slim Jim is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like, they're just dicking around the whole time and it fucking rules. But at the same, like which ultimately I think was kind of.
Yeah, it was the murder weapon in a lot of ways. I think
really do. It was. To be fair, I think the intention was to create NWO fans.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they kind of went too far in that direction.
A little bit, yeah.
Which is why the Wolfpack and stuff was, and then you're like, you know, having Luger and Sting join them, and it just like you made them too popular, too likable, even to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Hogan, everybody hated Hogan.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
But the Wolfpack, everybody loved, you know.
Yeah,
and that because you remember when, like later on in '97, when Hall's doing the surveys.
Mm-hmm.
And like, who's here to see the NWO? And
yeah.
then like everybody in the building is.
Yeah, all because Kevin Nash went to see Heat and decided that it's okay if villains are popular. Remember, that's his explanation. He explains that everyone who went to the cinema wanted De Niro to win, so it was okay. He could be a babyface as a heel in wrestling.
That fucking rules. I'm sorry.
I respect it. I do. I respect it. It's interesting. I don't know. Like you kind of captured it. It's very conflicting for me. Like I have fun with it and it pops me, but I also it's kind of a bummer how like
it's actually more fun to enjoy. It's more enjoyable to see those small parts in hindsight now. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Of course, you and I weren't watching it, but still, my point is like to get. But like at the time, I feel like I would have been furious at that shit.
Yeah, I also
especially
think
if I was my age now, like I would probably still get a kick out of some of it.
Yeah,
but like
you and I would get real mad about it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine us doing post shows, immediate post shows afterwards, getting real mad about it? So nonetheless, Nash is here, and that sets up the angle of the month for WCW. Pretty famous one on pay-per-view with Bischoff, and it's a dramatic scene, right? It's one of the kind of first big-time moments for the Outsiders angle. It's about to become the NWO angle. Talk us through it. Angle of the month. Poor Eric Bischoff, who eventually is, alongside these gentlemen, but here he takes the famed kind of stunt bump through the staging there at the pay-per-view. Just talk me through it, pal.
I'll say this as an allusion to what we get to later in July, and I always think it was a credit to them. Bischoff joins them at Bash at the Beach, right? Particularly behind the scenes.
Yes. I believe I forget what the timeline is in kayfabe of when though, because is it Bash or is it later?
I think it's got to be Bash because remember he's not at the Bash and they don't know where he is.
Yeah.
And then he claims he was in meetings or whatever. So I'm pretty sure that's when he joined them.
Okay, yeah.
Because after that, the Disney tapings, he's like there some weeks and he's not others.
Yeah.
And they don't know where he is. Like it was clear they had already like. So this was kind of the last time that Bischoff was like not with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get to it in probably not until November fully, but does he ever explain how he joined up with him back in July?
See, this is the thing. It's the Piper feud when it happens on TV,
Right.
and they definitely do explain it. Here we go. Joe has the answer. I think he said that after Great American Bash, they approached him and he realized joining them was the only way.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Joining them was the only way.
Is right. He joins. I think it was the Go Home Nitro World War III.
Yeah.
I think
it's in that stretch. Yeah.
Like November 11th or something. I think it was the week. I think it was the week after Pillman. After Pillman's got a gun.
Wow. Really?
I think it was the
That'll
week
be a hell of an
Pillman's
episode.
got a gun.
I know the Piper's around. That's my try. I know for sure. He's around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was that because Piper was the one who like outed him. Yes. Remember?
Yeah.
Piper, whatever. Piper with his.
That's pretty good.
We're stepping way ahead, but it's just it was just a side because I was thinking. Obviously, he's still. But anyways, this angle is crazy because they do it so well. Bischoff ends up inviting them. The week Nash shows up, he invites him.
Yeah.
To the bash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He says, well, I can get my 3 guys or whatever. And so, because, they're already alluding that they have a 3rd guy.
Yes.
So they have this promo and Bischoff calls him out or whatever and says, I got these 3 guys. This match is signed for Bash at the Beach or whatever. And he won't give him the 3 guys, which they haven't even been announced yet, but he wouldn't tell him anyways. Because I think there's like a list of 6 guys. And he won't, and Hogan's one of them, by the way. It's Hogan, Flair, Giant, Sting, Savage, Luger, the 6 guys, which makes sense. The top 6 guys that they've basically built the whole company around since Nitro started.
Absolutely.
And of course the Hall and Nash are mad that they won't. Oh, so you're going to try to play us now? They attack him. Gets kicked in the stomach. Great call by Dusty and Tony. He gets powerbombed off the stage to their table, which is insane. It's 1996.
Yes, yeah.
Like, insane angle. Crazy. The fans are going crazy. Dusty's great. Like, Tony and Dusty are both good. Dusty's, like, really good because, like, Dusty's all, like shook up and stuff. And, like, because, like, Luger comes out and Luger's, like, looking around down at the stage, like, wow, like, crazy. And, like, because, this is right before the main event of Luger and Giant.
Yeah. And
Dusty's, like, trying to, like, send it. He tries to send it over to David Penzer, and then he goes, oh, I'm sorry, Michael Buffer. He's, like, all, like, shaking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just, like.
An actual happening. It feels like the show has been broken by this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's so well done. Crazy, crazy scene. Like,
Oracle, that's what you call it, a wrestling angle.
Yeah, that's exactly what you call a wrestling angle, especially when the announcers treat it like one.
Yeah,
and especially when the other wrestlers treat it like one. That's really when it's key. When Lex Luger's coming out in his world title match and he's nervous and looking down on the stage, that's an angle. Companies today could do that. But anyways. Both companies, to be fair.
Just wrestling, to be honest.
Yeah, wrestling in general.
Absolutely.
Just an incredible angle, though. And again, I always try to put myself in that moment. I'm like, man, if I'm 16, 17 years old, I'm 15, I'm losing my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Like, this feels like an actual, like, invasion angle.
Yeah, the actual invasion stretch of it is probably the best wrestling angle ever.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, granted, they kind of harm the legacy slightly, well, more than slightly. They do some damage to the legacy and the stuff that follows the kind of pure invasion element, but the actual invasion itself, the outsiders kind of dynamic, is magnificent. Okay, anything else on the big angle that we, just overall the teasing of third men, or are we ready to move on? Obviously, it's the kind of centerpiece of this time, but
Hall and Nash take shots at Hogan during this period. They make fun of him a couple times. Not as much as the other guys, but
They didn't know.
They didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think I don't even think Hogan was an option until probably after the Bash, right?
Yeah.
Or was it right around the Bash?
I don't know because
right around the Great American Bash. To be clear, I want to be clear.
What is the consensus story at this point? Because I know Hogan has tried to claim that he actually pitched himself and said it's me, brother, which I don't know if anyone else has co-signed that. I think that's just Kevin Sullivan told a story of like holding him hostage at his house so that he wouldn't go back on the idea.
Nitro, yeah.
Yeah, so
or rather the book Nitro, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. What does it say in Nitro about whose idea it was? Do you remember? Was it Eric's?
I think it was Eric's.
Yeah, because Sting was going
to be the other guy, just in case Hogan backed out, and like that's where the story of Sullivan holding Hogan hostage that weekend in his house in Jacksonville or whatever? Or
yeah,
Daytona.
Hogan's handlers would get involved was his fear, right? So Sullivan just kept him close by so he knew no one could contaminate the angle, brother. That's pro wrestling.
That's great meta too. Like the Dungeon of Doom, Kevin Sullivan. Yeah. I'm gonna keep Hogan.
Do you imagine being that pizza delivery driver? Dropping off Sullivan and Hogan in there? It'd be very confusing. But nonetheless, it is the centerpiece of this month, but there's a lot going on in WCW. This stick with Great American Bash, the month's best match, is featured here too. A very famous match. Kind of the symbol of the whole like concept, really, in a lot of ways, or one of them anyway. Dean Malenko, Rey Mysterio. This is Rey's debut, which is always like, quite the fault when you hit in a grand scheme. Obviously, we've been covering him regularly on the show for ECW, but WCW debut. Talk about the match itself and also Dean's kind of developing role as like the kind of technician that was like the centerpiece of the division for much of its existence, honestly. Talk about this whole picture here. Go ahead.
So the first sort of like super famous cruiserweight match was in May on Worldwide, I believe. Because Otani was the first cruiserweight champion, or the reinvented light heavyweight title, now known as cruiserweight title. And Malenko had a famous match with Otani on Worldwide where he beat him. And of course, he became cruiserweight champion. And he was a smart guy to anchor it because I don't love Malenko, though I do like him. I just think he kind of has like he's a very good, like, he has this base of like what he does in his matches. There are certain things that irks me about him, like kicking out of near falls before they're kicked out of. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Oh yeah,
but, like, yeah.
You like him more than me, brother.
Like he or like doing mat work that doesn't look that very hurty at all. Because he was just trying to live his gimmick or work his gimmick, which I can appreciate, but like sometimes he just would struggle with that a little bit, I think. Not so much in like he would just try to find something to do on a heat segment and be like, whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of my issue with this match in a way. It's a great match.
Oh yeah.
Only because of Rey's so spectacular, right? And he's really changed the game with the cruiserweights when he came in.
Just changed wrestling.
And Syke and Hoovy came in and followed after. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. He absolutely changed wrestling. He's one of the. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Rey Mysterio had an excellent match with Finn Balor last night. I don't know if you saw it, but
so good.
He and Finn had a great match last night. Great TV match. Did you see it?
Yeah, and he was. I love Finn. He was the better worker in the match.
Yeah,
that's how good he is, dude. He's ridiculous.
I know. Yeah, he's like Rey's just incredible, man, and I mean, just the way he would like his high flying and he was just spectacular. That's just a word to use, really.
Very unique,
and just the way his timing has always been just. He's like timing up there, all time great. In terms of that, just when to hit his spots, when to sell, when to come back. Like this match is kind of within like the message board circles is kind of a mixed bag in terms of its acclaim. Mm-hmm. I know my brother Dylan kind of falls and I'm there. I'm not quite as severe on it as he is in a way, but Malenko works the arm in that match, and it frustrates a lot of people because, and that's where I go in pulling back to where I think Malenko was just trying to like be the man of 1,000 holds and just thought, oh, I'll work the arm and do a bunch of stuff with that when it made more sense to work the leg. But to be fair, Ray's selling was great. Malenko did do some good stuff on the arm work.
Oh, he's good.
Ray sold his arm when he was running the ropes and shit. Like Ray, you know what I mean? Like it was just a part of me feels like it's nitpicky, but
the thing is, I think there's pushback when it comes to Malenko because there is a perception that he was like this absolute wizard on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the pushback is because if you watch his work, to me, he is at his best when he is like purely basing for a guy like Ray and going in the sequences and doing like him just being on the mat. Like, I just don't see him that way. And history definitely has framed him as being that dude. Like he's like the ultimate technician. I just don't think he ever really was that. But I don't know.
Right.
That's part of it. That's why we need to be, I think. But I don't know.
I mean, he was a great base for Ray.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, he's one of the best.
I mean, he could set up, for Ray's spots incredibly.
Yes. He's a good wrestler, right? It's just, I think there's folks like myself nitpick because he's always cited as like the mat wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Like when a guy today, a perfect example, this is a little modern talk and we'll get back on track. But a couple of years ago when Drew Gulak was rolling in the cruiserweight division, how many times did you have to read Oracle? Oh, he's like Dean Malenko. It's like, bro, Drew actually does that shit on the ground. He's really that way,
Here's another match. Jamie Noble and Ray, the one we watched on Velocity on this very show, or not this very show, but on Grindication. Noble works the arm, right?
Yeah.
But you believe it because Jamie Noble had a run as James Gibson in Ring of Honor, killing on the mat, and you can buy Jamie Noble a little bit more.
Great wrestler, great wrestler. By the way.
Oh, his run in Ring of Honor is incredible.
We'll never cover him on this show, right? Well, I guess 2000 we get some. He's genuinely one of the most underrated wrestlers of the last 30 years, right? He has to be. He's best. He was spectacular, dude. He really was.
Another thing again, I apologize for talking with my mouth open with food, but another thing. Sorry, very long day at work, folks.
You're good to go.
But the thing with Malenko, he was an excellent tag worker, I think, too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And especially that Benny tag team in '99. But and it's true. He worked really well with the cruiserweights, Lucha guys specifically.
Yes.
Though I like the disco match, and we'll talk about that, when we cover July. But the thing that bugs me the most with him is he would like in the finishing sequences.
Yeah.
He depends on who he wrestles. I think sometimes the better workers might kind of keep him from doing as much. But when he kicks out of his own pin attempts,
he's just thinking of the next. He's thinking of the next spot, and he's going.
Oh God, it makes me.
Yeah, it's rough.
It took me a while to catch that, but somebody pointed it out one time on the message board years ago, and I was like, "Oh, I've noticed it, and I can't not notice it now."
It's one of those deals that once you see it, you're fucked, right? Like it will ruin.
It's kind of like when you. I mean, I know it's pretty blatant, but like when you first catch that first time you see Cena or Becky or whoever like yelling spots.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people like Punk, especially in WWE, he's terrible at it. When you catch him yelling spots, you're just like, oh,
yeah,
like no, you can't miss it.
Does Shoot like Dean Malenko?
I'm not sure. I like Dean. I probably like him the best out of everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't. I mean, he wasn't like. There's a famous year in PWI where he won #1. It was like '97.
That was when the industry died. Never recovered. Never returned.
Disgraceful.
In all seriousness,
like incredible in '97.
In all seriousness, he's a good wrestler.
He is.
A lot of valid criticisms are in response to the narrative around him, which isn't his fault, right? He was fucking being a wrestler, so
right.
All love to Dean. There's a lot of pieces of shit.
All in all, we're being mean to Dean Malenko.
We are. Yeah, but we're assholes. We've accepted that.
Right, exactly.
Dean seems like good people, right?
The match was great. It was a pivotal match in wrestling history because it was like the crowd got super into it. The commentary were losing their minds over it. Like, and they have an excellent rematch the next night on Nitro. It's arguably just as good.
Oh, they get their money's worth out of the matchup, don't they? They run that thing back.
Oh yeah, I'm about to watch Clash from August, and that's the opener of the show.
Yeah, there you go.
So
becomes a famous pairing, right? It does.
It does.
Okay. Speaking of famous pairings, one of the pay-per-view's big matches, Flair and Arn are together up against Mongo and Kevin Green. We talked about this build, right? Last time, I remember you were very fired up. There's a lot going on here. There's a big angle at the end, which you've alluded to. Heenan is back at ringside for the final time of I guess, for the final time in WCW, right? How would you explain it? Because he manages in Ring of Honor.
Did you read
this one?
Did you read the comment?
LNG is the Seinfeld Wrestling Podcast. Awful people, but you can't stop watching. That's very late. I don't know how I feel about that, but fair. I mean, accurate, right? Accurate. Right. There's a lot going on here. Heenan is at ringside for the last time in WCW. He manages in Ring of Honor, right? But like on a big time national stage, this is his last time really managing. With love to Ring of Honor. So there's a lot going on. Big build, big angle at the end. Flair is, this is all at the end of his business with Savage. And I can't remember how they do anything after this. I know there's feud ends around here though. Talk us through it best you can, Oracle. There are many, many moving pieces, so explore it however you choose. Go ahead.
So this match rules.
Yes, accurate.
It's actually, look, it's super fun.
Yes.
It's like a total blast to watch. Crowds like Kevin Green and Flair have these incredible exchanges where he's doing shoulder tackles and running football runs and shit. And Flair's selling, and Kevin Green does a strat at one point, and the crowd is losing their mind. Flair's reactions are incredible. Arn's a pro and does his best to keep it together with these guys, and Mongo just has this ball of energy. God bless him. He's not coordinated at all in the ring, but he just has this infectious energy really, and he really does. And his effort's always there. He wasn't really that bad in this match. He was fine here. Kevin Green, I legit thought had some wrestling chops on him.
He was
that dude could work for a celeb worker. He could he has.
He brought some energy of his own, by the way, too. Good Lord.
Yeah, he did.
He's fired up, right?
Yeah, he was he could cut a promo just it wasn't even he just had this wrestling promo voice, But listen, finish. Incredible.
Yeah.
All-time great.
Agreed.
Flair gets Kevin Green in the figure four. Kevin Green can't get out of the figure four. He's not he's not a trained wrestler. To put over the hold or whatever. Mongo's out there getting distracted, and at one point in the match, Deborah and Kevin Green's wife get run off by Woman and Elizabeth.
Pop.
And Deborah McMichael comes back out with a Halliburton briefcase. Comes up. Mongo's out there. She gives it to him. He opens it up. Tons of money, all green. And I love it. He doesn't immediately do it, right? Which is what makes it. He does it quickly, but there's you have to put a little bit of doubt in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "What? Are you sure?" But Deborah's like, "Yeah, take it." And they have arguing there for a little bit, minute or so. Mongo takes the briefcase sort of reluctantly and looks at Kevin Green, and Kevin Green's calling out for Mongo. Mongo, help me. What are you doing? And he he decides to take the money, getting paid off. And of course, when he opens the briefcase, there's the Horseman shirt too. That's huge. Yeah. He can be a member of the Horseman with all that money. Don't want to forget that because that's critical. Because he gets the Horseman shirt and then the money. And Deborah's like, "You got to take it. You got to take it. You got to take it." Mongo fucking wails Kevin Green with the Halliburton briefcase. And I think he gets pinned, right, in the figure four or whatever, or he gets Flair pins him or something.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And at the end of the match, Mongo is kind of like, well, I like because they play it so well. Like, it's believable because
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
you know, you believe it because he would take the money, be a horseman, but at the same time, there's some reluctance because Green's his friend. But at the same time, his wife's telling him to do it.
Yeah, he just makes a choice.
You don't say, you don't say no to your wife when it comes to your career and money and whatever. That's kind of how they're playing off of. And they end up beating up Kevin Green in the post match, and Randy Savage, I think, comes out because Savage is at ringside with Green and Mongo, and Savage gets beat up too, and Mongo hits Savage with the briefcase, and Mongo shakes the Horseman guy's hand, and then even shakes Heenan's hand, and Tony Schiavone and Dusty are going crazy on commentary, and just an unbelievable angle. And of course, we have the newest iteration of the Horseman, which is Flair, Arn, Benoit, and Mongo.
And look, mixed results, but that is a famous version, right? Because it's I think everyone thinks that as the Nitro version. Bless Pillman, he's gone so quickly from the group. So I always think of this as the Nitro version. Yeah, this is a blast, man. This is a great example of like what you and I are alluding to and referencing when we talk about the greatness of WCW. Like, this is such a distinctly WCW situation. The way it all comes off, the way it feels. Absolutely awesome. Tremendous stuff. So, great. I guess the phrase would be sports entertainment. I don't know, man. I just think it's good old-fashioned pro wrestling, to be honest with you, all right?
Great angle. Awesome.
Yeah, just a great pro wrestling angle. Okay. Remind me, Flair and Savage, when does that actually conclude? Is that their last note together, or do they go on and do stuff on TV? Because I can't remember.
They end up having a couple of matches on TV.
Of course. Makes sense.
Including one where like Savage throws the money out or whatever. I can't remember which one that is. I think it's in June, actually.
They wrestled so much.
I think it is this month.
In the first 18
they have the final match. It's pretty decent.
Most of the matches are
decent. They're trying to wrap it up before
what's their best one?
Hogan turns.
In WCW, what's their best match? Because they wrestle a lot when Savage comes. That first 18 months of Savage run, they wrestle all the time.
I actually like their matches in 95 a good bit.
Yeah?
Not like great, but they're fun.
They're always a good time.
I remember watching the lifeguard match, whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
It's just fun because it's just so silly.
That's the one where they shoot at the end. There's the big finish where Arn goes behind the referee's back and hits his DDT, and Savage just kicks out and beats Flair. That's the thing. All of the matches are fun, but I asked because they wrestled a lot without having a obvious classic in WCW to me. I don't know. So would you say any of their WCW matches reach the heights of the WrestleMania match? Not right, unless I'm misremembering. No, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a memorable rivalry to me because I love this particular time, this little middle ground, and they wrestle so often in that middle ground. It really is. It really is fun. Okay. All right, we have up next. Let's stick with the Horsemen. We just talked about them. Dungeon of Doom drama is continuing. Let's get more specific. Let's navigate this best we can.
Unfortunately, right? a relevant topic in some way.
Indeed. Unfortunately, a recurring subject, especially in our circle, which I know how I feel about. But nonetheless, there is a very famous Chris Benoit, Kevin Sullivan ordeal. They wrestle at the pay-per-view in the Falls Count Anywhere match. There is a particular call of that, which JJ has requested you do, which I'm sure you'll get to momentarily. But talk about this whole picture and then this focus in, again, as carefully as we can, on the Benoit-Sullivan pieces of this.
So, essentially, the whole angle sort of starts with, Sullivan doesn't think Benoit's a worthy person to be in the Horsemen, and, the Horsemen and the Dungeon are still kind of working together. And Arn sort of plays along with Sullivan. So leading into this match, Arn's kind of teasing that he's on Sullivan's side.
Yeah.
So that's basically what it is, and Benoit takes, doesn't really like Sullivan, saying he's not good enough to be in the Horsemen, so on and so forth. So we get that. They have some heated brawls or whatever, and including I think it was Slamboree. No, at some point I think it might have been after this match. At some point, a woman gets involved, and so on and so forth. I won't go too deep into that, but I think but the match itself is good. It's fun.
Yes.
They brawl all over the arena. Crowd's hot. I think their San Francisco match is better, actually, with Jacqueline involved. Jacqueline and Woman have this great side brawl going on. I don't know if you remember that, but they're fucking brawling ruled. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
I know the chats.
I'm sorry, Oracle. I don't mean to be straight. I do remember it. Yes, look. This good stuff. A lot of this stuff is. Unfortunately, it's
But the commentary is really the highlight of this match.
Yes,
I think the match is overrated a little bit. Again, I think the San Francisco match is better, but this, it's a fun match, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. And they go and brawl into the bathrooms, and they go and they're in the men's room, right? And they're brawling around the urinals and stuff. And these fans are excited, and they're all coming in after him. So this woman just is in the bathroom just cheering, and Dusty sees it and goes, "There's a lady in the men's bathroom." Oh no. Did you see that, Tony?
He's so excited, dude. He's like a little kid. It pops him so much.
He starts howling and freaking out and "There's a lady in the men's bathroom," and he starts At one point, I think Dusty says, "Come on," at one point, which popped me huge.
Can you believe people hated Dusty on commentary? Come on, man. What a time.
Rules. And there were some spots where the part where they were throwing each other's arms and head into the stalls and hitting each other, that was
they beat the shit out of each other. I mean,
they beat the fuck out of each other.
It is what it is. I think there's a few kind of wrestling myths that come with this match too, of them really fucking each other up right there. I think this one was pretty.
Jamal takes a crazy bump down the stairs in the crowd. It's a super fun match. Finish is insane. I can't believe that board didn't collapse.
Yeah,
there's a board that they put on top to do the superplex that Benoit wins the match with.
That's one of those finishes that you'd never have cleared as making sense or be anything that would work, but it does. So fuck it, I guess. It works.
It works perfectly. And I believe Arn finally, because this is when the Horsemen all come together. Arn takes Benoit's side, helps him win. I think he's DDT Sullivan or something before the superplex. I think if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah.
And then superplex for the win. Yeah, just a super fun match. Dusty's commentary calls a classic moment. But this is a feud that literally lasts for another fucking year.
By the way,
Ming gets involved. Of course, Woman gets involved, and Arn stays involved, and so on.
It's worth noting, we've talked about this pay-per-view, right? We had the big angle. We had the celebrity football player tag, which had the great turn. We had Ray and Dean, and then you had a big brawl that went through the building. It's when WCW was good, man, they could do wrestling buffet like no other promotion, because it was nuts. The guys were just able to do what they wanted almost, So, nonetheless, there is one name we haven't really mentioned. He's actually closing this show as the world's champion. He's got the big gold. The Giant. You mentioned Luger was in the main event, and he did the thing where he sold the angle. He's wrestling Giant. And how is his reign coming along? I mean, I think we all know, considering where things are about to go, ultimately he's kind of a sitting duck in some ways, right? Once the angle's shot, he's, Hogan's winning that belt. The Giant isn't off the foot already, though, fair to say, right?
He really is.
Yeah.
Old Paul White, he tries his best, man. I'll tell you what, I'll give him credit here. I think there was a good worker in there in him even then.
Yeah.
He just didn't get the right people to say, hey, because everybody it was Wild Wild West there. Every top guy was every man for himself. And he didn't have anybody say, here, man, show how you do this.
It's a shame.
Because there's even I wonder how Jimmy Hart was for him. I wonder if Jimmy helped him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know he's been he praises Savage a lot.
Okay.
As being the guy, the kind of elder statesman that actually he felt cared about his progress. Hogan is Hogan. I don't think he had any issues with Hogan, but he's still fucking Hogan, right? Is what it is.
Right.
Yeah, and Nash and Hall. Actually, Paul White is one of the few guys who has never really pulled that punch. He's always kind of made it clear what he thinks of what they did to WCW. You know,
Yeah.
like so. It's interesting.
He was a really solid promo.
Yeah.
Even then, in my opinion. I mean, he had some cheesy lines and stuff, but you could tell. I mean, obviously, there was about a 10-year period where he was a good promo to WWE consistently.
Yes, definitely.
But he really showed some good mic skills. Really, he really did. Like that was kind of. I just wish that he was such an athlete for size, and nobody really showed him. You know, you could tell you could tell there was something in him that he wanted to be really good. You know, and it's just he just didn't have the people there to help him. You know, it took him a while. You know, he had to go through some, you know, rough patches in WWE where he had some weight problems and stuff, and you know, he finally figured it out and became, quite honestly, an excellent worker for a few years.
Certainly, it is. I mean, I'm always hesitant with this talking point because I have a great deal of admiration and respect for Paul White, but he became a great professional wrestler. He became an incredibly, you know, revered pro. But I do think it's worth stressing, like, he still had, as good as his career has been, it's still slightly strange. You know, like, I think it's easy to forget what he could have been. I mean, lest we forget that when they signed him, the word was that Vince was like enamored, like this idea of having a giant who could talk and go and do media and be like this kind of babyface talker or a heel. He had a great career, but I always think there's some truth to like what could have been, you know, like I wonder what it looks like for him if he comes 20 years earlier. Yeah. And it's a different time where guys aren't wrestling on TV every week and doing, you know, roll-up finishes. And he may have been one of the great attractions ever. I mean, as is, he had a hell of a career.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know. It's a good question. What would you say is Big Show's promo? I would say, like, me personally, I always think like the Mark Henry matches showed how good of a worker he'd become. That's an era that comes to mind for me. I don't know. What do you think?
I'll give you the answer. 2008, 2012.
So when he comes back and does the Floyd angle, that's the starting point. And 2012 is up to when he like turns in the Laurinaitis angle. Yeah, there you go. I mean, even because after that they kind of get tired of him, right? Famously, that, you know, he gets the please retire and stuff. But he had some good matches. I mean, that match he had with Roman at like Extreme Rules or whatever the hell.
That was in 2015. That was after people were already. But he was. That Sheamus match at Hell in a Cell was an absolutely amazing match.
They used to beat the shit out of each other, man.
Oh, yeah.
That Sheamus
fucking ruled.
You could accuse Sheamus of many things, but that dude ain't no bully. He went up to the fucking 7 foot giant and was just whacking him with clotheslines and forearms. God bless. Yeah, the Bash is a hell of a show. Let's wrap up with one last thing. DDP, who we talked about last time out with Battle Bowl and all that stuff. I mean, that was May, right? Yeah. He is moving through the mid card. Oracle, update on DDP's progress here in June of '96. How are we getting on the DDP front?
He's basically defending the Battle Bowl ring in every match now, and just kind of moving up the mid card. Like basically, they did a really good job of building him up, and he's winning his matches, winning his feuds. He's like this scummy heel, right?
Yep.
He's really getting the diamond cutter over, finding a new way to hit literally every match. And you can tell, like, you watch the progression as I'm finishing up the summer. They're popping bigger and bigger for the move, right?
Yeah.
And for most of '96, he was good enough as a heel, right? The fans would get into it. You know, he was a natural heel in a lot of ways. I always preferred him as a heel than a babyface, even though his biggest push was as a babyface. But, you know, 97, 98. But it's his move. He doesn't get over until he punks out the NWO, Because no one else had punked out the NWO like that.
That's a great angle, also. By the way.
Oh, it's an incredible angle. And kudos to, I mean, because I know they were buddies with Hall and Nash, or whatever.
Oh, they still did it, right? Still did
it. They still helped him get over.
Oh, for sure. Changed his career, man.
Because he got to punk him out, man. Like, that was a big deal. That 97 angle, it was January 13th or whatever, when he puts the shirt on and then punks him out, dude. That's like one of the best. I love that angle. Like, and he ends up being like one of like two guys who never jumped to the NWO. It's him and Flair.
It's so sad. It's only those two. Dude.
He and Flair are the only two that never jumped. From like the top stars. Well, Goldberg didn't, but he turned heel in 2000 thanks to Russo. Yeah. But that's not an NWO jump, but still,
it's worse.
Yeah,
he just turns and like they immediately turn him back too. It's brutal.
Although the Jim Duggan squash rules.
Fair. That's quite the deal, right? And Jim just comes out and does like the big emotional promo, and yeah, it's interesting. All right, Oracle, I have a question. Let's put a bow on June for WCW. To this point, that's got to be the best month in company history, right? Like since the Turner buyout, it has to be. I mean, they had so many bad months in that. However, it's 8 years. Like, incredible.
Months, we'll get to the Disney tapings next month, and that's like,
Oh yeah, they topped their greatest hit. They beat their greatest hit in a lot of ways. But it's just, I don't know. You and I talk about it a lot. We understand why Bischoff's divisive, but this was a hell of a feat what they were pulling off here, because they had a while there where it looked like they were struggling to stay alive.
Rough.
Hell of a time. WCW with a clean sweep. All right, let's move forward now to Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Keep talking, Joe. I'll be back in 10 seconds.
Okay, that's fine. We're going to move on into ECW, and the Oracle of Wrestling returns. We hope you're enjoying this, folks. As always, if you would like to send us a particular question or just a little tip for popping you can do so. Streamlabs.com/late-night-grin. JJ, I hope you enjoyed the dusty impression that you got for your prior super grin. We have much discussed with ECW, some of which I'm unfamiliar with, some of which I'm more familiar with than I would like to be. Much discuss on the ECW front. Oracle, you ready to get into it with old Paulie's?
Let's do it.
You did not miss the Fed show. Well, the Fed chat will be closing the show, pal. You did not miss it, so we'll get there. Hardcore Heaven is the show. There is much to discuss both on and surrounding this show. Let's start at the top. The main event of the show is RVD and Taboo. They do like the double stretcher job deal here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Explain this, talk me through this whole deal. Obviously, we've talked about this feud and kind of because it's one of those kind of divisive wrestling history pieces, but this particular installment and how things end up. Go ahead.
Well, the ring's broken.
Yes. Which leads to something else which we'll get to.
So they have this crazy match. It's the best of their matches. I fucking don't like their feud. I think it sucks. Kind of like I just don't think they have good chemistry together. I don't mind the RVD Sabu tag team that much, although I don't love them. But their matches, their feud doesn't do anything for me. But this is the best match of that feud, in my opinion. Partly because the ring's broken and like the crowd's tired because they literally sat there for an hour, and there's something that occurs during that hour that we'll talk about that's not on Peacock, but was a big reason why the VHS got sold so well in the 90s. Yeah, it's whatever. Like they do a double stretcher job. Like they all take it seriously, and like, I don't know. I'm kind of ready for them to be a tag team, which happens, eventually here.
Fair enough. Let's get to it because it's a kind of infamous deal, very controversial. I believe Jericho wrote about his book, I want to say. It's one of the places this story got. While this is going on, the ring and people are kind of getting impatient. The fearless leader that is Paulie dangerously comes up with The kind of idea you'd think he'd come up with in times of emergency. From what I know of this story, there are like some like genuinely awful moving pieces here where he absolutely lied to poor Kimona. I don't know what you know of this. Explain it to the people best you can, but like this is
fill in gaps that I may not know. But basically the ring breaks.
Pop.
And they literally have to sit there for an hour to get the ring fixed because it's ECW, and of course it takes them an hour to fix the ring. And like they've got this big Sabu RVD main event they want to do. And like people are restless, so Paulie just decides to get Kimona Wanalea out there.
Indeed.
On in the Crow's Nest, which is up there where Joe Styles is commentary, to just do a striptease.
Yeah.
Up there. And of course she does. And in the WWE documentary, Jericho does a great Terry Gordy impression. Because we'll get to Terry Gordy because he's on this show. Terry Gordy goes, I ain't never seen this before, or something like that.
I forgot that. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so Kimona goes out there and literally does like a 10-minute striptease.
Yeah.
Like literally something you would literally see in a strip club.
Yeah, like striptease in the wrestling context is not what this like. You may be thinking this is like
this is an actual like, stripper dance going on.
Yes.
On stage.
Yes. I believe, and this could be wrong, Paulie Dangerously, please do not sue me if this is false.
Did you see JJ's comment?
I did this on. I'm sure Alex Boyle on VHS. That's tremendous. We'll ask him next time. I could be wrong on this. Please do not sue me, Paulie, if I am. But isn't the story that he said that Kimona said she'd do it, but he couldn't use the footage and he just sold the VHS tape like a fucking piece of shit? That of course he would. I think that's the story.
That sounds like something he would do.
If someone in the chat knows, because I don't want to, blame him for stuff he didn't do. He's done enough stuff, but like, I think Jericho talks about it. I don't know. I could be completely wrong.
It's like with Paulie or somebody's like the night, like when Paulie's on the ECW, WWE, ECW, Rise and Fall. He's like longingly talking about the night Kimona Wanalea danced atop the ECW arena.
He's fucking nuts, dude. He's insane.
What the fuck? Like, this is awful.
He's one of those wrestling characters that's like, he's objectively like bad, right?
Yeah.
Like objectively so, but like for whatever fucking reason, everyone in wrestling and everyone that talks about wrestling does this thing with him where it's like, yeah, but Paulie, like he's just like, it's honestly an indictment of all of us, but we all do it with him. Like he's very unique. That's the way I'm going to put it politely, but I think that's the story, folks. Tell me if I'm wrong on that. I don't know. Yeah, this is something, right?
He's like a low rent villain in like a like a crime mob movie. Is he not? Isn't that basically what he is?
He still pops me. Like he came out on Raw and he does this fucking like the oldest bit ever. Like they start doing "You Suck" and he goes, "Hey, listen, Brock and I may have our issues, but Brock Lesnar does not suck." And I was like, "Oh, fucking Paulie is still doing it, man. Look at
Brock popped at it too. Did you see Brock popping at it?
Huge. The crowd didn't even react to it. We do have to talk about this very quickly. If you did not see the 31 tonight, you need to go seek out for Oracle's cameo. That took us like a minute to shoot, and I was popping huge. We should post the unedited where I came on and reacted. It was incredible, dude. Hilarious stuff. So yeah, go watch the 31 if you haven't seen it. Next week is the finale,
Yeah.
Last episode with Jeremy Lambert. Well, the first season's last episode, I should say. All right. Let's move on from that subject to this state of Sabu, though. Before the pay-per-view, he takes ECW's best match of the month with LNG 2021 draft, pick, Mikey Whipwreck. Talk us through it, Oracle.
Well, let me just say this. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I watched a recent August ECW episode, and lo and behold, in fact, it was actually ECW's Doctor is In super event. The opener was Mikey Whipwreck versus a young man by the name of Dangerous Devon Storm. You know what that means, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. It happened.
The greatest tag team of all time had a match.
They were like the dumpster team, remember? They used to like do brawls or like on location. Do you remember that was your shtick for them?
Yeah. Dude, it popped me huge. The match wasn't very good, but still.
Oh, of course. Don't worry about it. In 2021, I'm sure they'd have been a great team.
But yeah, this match ruled. This is like, I've always enjoyed their matches. There's crazy shit in this one. Like, it's been a couple months since I've seen it, but I think there's like a couple like nuts table spots in this that are just insane.
Yeah.
Which, you know, par for the course with Sabu and Mikey even. It's just a super fun spot fest kind of. But the way that these two put their matches together, I really like. I think Mikey was a really good worker at this time.
Yeah, he's an interesting like.
People like, he had this weird reputation that he sucked, and it's not true at all.
Do you think he gets more love if he comes in like the era afterwards, where
Maybe
guys
so,
have his
yeah.
kind of presentation?
Well, he sells so well, and he paces his matches so much better than the other
he's
guys.
good. Yeah, he's definitely good. Yeah, I'm obviously not as big a fan as you.
Right.
You know, you picked him in 2021, but I'm with you. I do appreciate Mikey. You mentioned Terry Gordy. You give us that wonderful impression. He is here. He's wrestling Raven for the title. This is an interesting time for Terry. So that's how I'm going to put it. How is the match? Is this his only spot in ECW? To like explain this whole situation, because I'm not actually.
Oh, he's in ECW until he becomes Executioner. He's in ECW for like 3 or 4 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he actually looked motivated here.
Good.
This is his first big match in a long time. You know, after his, you know, horrible health problems. In fact, I think I've said this on this before. I saw Terry Gordy's last match ever, days before he died. Literally days, a couple days before he died.
Dude, man.
Terry did not look like. I saw him live in East Ridge, Tennessee, about this time 21 years ago in July 2001. I was 8 years old. Still looked like Terry, you know, but he just, you know, he obviously wasn't. He didn't. I mean, I didn't think he was on death's door. I was 8 years old. I couldn't tell the difference. But he didn't look great. And less than a week later, he might have been 10 days later. He died.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was his last match. But which sounds weird, but I'm actually like super happy that I got to see Terry Gordy live.
Yeah, man. Terry was.
I grew up in Chattanooga, and that's his hometown.
Yeah.
So like,
it's just sad because he was so good, so young. Like his career could have been incredible. Like it was a great career, but like what I'm saying is he was a good worker at like 17.
Yeah,
he was a freak, dude.
He was a badass dude.
Yeah,
he's the type of guy that, like, you know, another relevant topic, Eddie Kingston, type of guy that. No, I mean, like I would say he looks a little bit more dangerous than Eddie does.
Yeah, he's more of an athlete, right?
Right, but like Terry was like a big dude, like big, kind of ugly. You know what I mean? I don't even mean it in like a mean way, but like
he's like a big mean football player. You know,
he looked like a dude who beat the fucking shit out of you if you tried to fight him.
Yeah, he did.
Like, and that pops me. You know. Got a mega pop. People in the arena over the years have famously said that was like the loudest pop in the history of the ECW arena when he came out.
Wow.
When Freebird hit. You can't tell because it's dubbed on Peacock.
Fuck. Does anyone have that original? Must be out there, right? Somewhere on the interwebs. I'd like to see it.
I may or may not have access to that.
Okay.
But
okay. That sounds
it's
promising.
It's probably on the not here with me, but elsewhere.
You don't have like a library next to you.
Right. You might be able to find on Daily Motion maybe.
Okay, let me explore that. Sounds fun.
Yeah, because like I've seen it before because I remember watching it before the actual version and it being like an insanely huge pop. Like he got like, you can tell even with the dubbed over music.
Yeah.
Like, because he comes out to Bad Street, which is motherfucker came out to Freebird in the arena. And like, you can tell like that these people are losing their mind. There are people in the front with high-fiving each other. Because it's Terry Gordy, man. Like, you know, like it's Yeah, he seemed motivated in this match. You know, Raven. I'm not a Raven fan, but he gave Terry a lot here, and it was a fun match. It was a fun match.
Good. I have to be honest with you. When I read it, I wasn't familiar with this. I knew the Executioner, and I wasn't familiar with this run. I have to be totally honest. When I read that match, I thought, "Oh my god, almighty, that sounds like it could be bad." You know, because I know that when Terry, after he came back from his issues,
Yeah,
a lot of people described him as being almost like a zombie. Like he just wasn't there. So I'm glad to hear he, was motivated and this was fun. That's good.
Severe brain damage. Actually.
Oh, bad, yeah. Like
he died and came back to life.
The story, like the rap on him with the WWF run was that like a lot of people vouch for him because he's Terry and everyone respects him. Yeah. But they just couldn't. He just didn't seem like he was there. Like he was only there in body. He wasn't with it. Which God bless the man, but it's just a shame. Anyway, let's stick with Raven. This is a famous angle, right? With Laurie and Tyler and this whole very soap opera deal. And Raven, this is his baby, right? Wasn't this his thing he fought for?
Yeah.
This was your pick for best angle, them joining Raven. Explain this whole deal because it is one of the famous ECW kind of stories, I think.
It is a great angle and it's executed very well because they build it up. Remember, because Raven wants to find the scummiest, trashiest woman. That's the nicest way I can say it. And then you go through all these skits and stuff, and we get Blue Dust, which I may have mentioned on here. I don't know.
We've got that in our format here, so we'll get to it in a second.
We get the debut of Blue Dust, which is Blue Meanie as Gold Dust, and all this stuff. Because Stevie's out there supposed to look for the right woman for Raven, because Beulah left him, Kimona left him, so now he's got to find the scummiest woman possible. Again, that's about the nicest way I could say it. And he ends up picking. It works really well as a heel move. Ends up picking Lori Fullington, Sandman's ex-wife, and her son Tyler, who's 6 at the time, which is
kind of terrifying, honestly.
A little questionable. Yeah. At no point does he seem like he's being in any danger. I mean, to be clear, They're very protective of him, but some of the stuff they say on the microphone, I'm not so sure I would want my 6-year-old hearing. Because when Raven first comes out, he's talking about impregnating women and literally saying all these things. I'm like, there's a 6-year-old child here. I mean,
indeed.
I mean,
and God forbid how much of he saw behind the camera, because that stuff supposedly was far more damaging.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I can. There's. It's a great angle.
Yeah.
And I pop for pretty much all controversial angles. I'm going to be very open about that. Because I find it to be more interesting when they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But let me be clear. I understand why people would be uncomfortable.
I'm a little bit concerned about the way I know what you meant, but you said all controversy angles, and I feel that could tie you into some you may not be thinking of right now. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Let me be clear. I say all, and I emphasize that, but most. How about that? Most, yeah, because I don't know. Road Warrior animal threatening to jump off the Titantron and commit suicide
exactly.
is not good. But this was just, I don't know. It's it's fucked up, but
soap opera stuff, man.
It's soap opera stuff. I love compelling. It. It's not that much different. It's more some of the things that are said are probably but it's not that much different than Eddie, Ray, and Dominic.
No, not all. And some of the Eddie stuff's fucking nuts, dude. When he goes to the park and he's being that's craziness. I mean, he's so great. It's weirdly endearing because he's committing to it so much, but it's still crazy, right?
But it's a great angle because Sandman wants to get at Raven, but he can't because he's not gonna hit his son with a Singapore cane,
Yeah, it's good shit.
And his son's doing the Raven pose, and Lori and Tyler are all denim and grunge outfits, and it's extremely well done, and the heat for it is pretty big.
Are you surprised? I know that Paul Lee is
and let me say this, and we'll jump to it because I want to say it. The ending of the angle is great, where Tyler and Sandman hug or whatever at the end.
Yes, is
That's
that this
that's
month?
a great ending to the angle too.
Yeah, I've seen the literally like just the snaps of it because they always hot spotlight this one when they talk about ECW. It's like one of the famous ones.
Yeah.
Paulie, has pretty loudly said that Raven was a creative genius, and you and I can explore what that means, much as we have with some another kind of interesting character for the last couple of years. Genius gets thrown around a lot, but are you surprised at how little Raven kind of was able to stick as like a creative force in wrestling? Like, I think TNA had him on their team for a while. He played with it a little bit in WWE, both before ECW and after, but he never really was like a booker. Like, really.
Raven really is. Raven's a smart guy.
Yes, absolutely.
I think he's someone who has these ideas in his head, but sometimes can't fully formulate them out into the world, particularly through his mouth.
Well, yeah, I think that's been a problem for him.
That was always a problem because he would just go on this drivel, and it's like, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
Like, it was very much, it's very much similar to Bray Wyatt, right? Like,
yeah, a little bit.
Really, it is. Is it not? Like,
that's who I was referencing.
Yeah, it's like it's very similar to Bray. It's good. It's very similar to Bray, and like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, just cut a promo.
Yeah.
Like,
who does that make Alexa though?
Chastity.
Tremendous. Okay, good. When Raven left, did he tell her to keep it alive, brother?
The story of him just walking out in that famous meeting.
That's one of
like, anybody want to leave? He just walked out and then showed up at the TNN tapings like a week later.
That's his greatest thing ever. That's like iconic. That's the greatest shit ever. Just stood up. Like, yeah, man. I wanted to leave the whole time. I didn't know we could do that.
Remember, he was supposed to be in the thing with Vampiro and the Insane Clown Posse, whatever it was.
Yeah, rules.
And then he was like, "Yep, I'm out." I mean, even the stuff like the long story of like the Flock breaking up, and that match with Saturn at Fall Brawl '98, which is like legitimately really good.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really smart guy. He's somebody who he's a perfect example of. I'm actually going to give him a lot of praise here. He's so smart that he's probably too smart for his own good.
Do you about Wyndham or?
No, I'm talking about Raven. in a similar vein to, obviously he's not. Don't get me wrong, he's not as good as these guys. In a similar vein to a Jericho or a Foley.
Yes.
Sometimes even Jericho or Foley will have ideas like Foley with like with Melina, right?
Indeed.
Or Jericho with Orange Cassidy in that feud, even, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll have these ideas and they're too smart for their own good sometimes.
They overthink.
And it's they overthink it.
Hang on a second. Look at Joe's comment. Imagine Big Stevie Cool coming out to stand up sharp, fight me.
Imagine Tafka Goldust coming after that.
I have to say, this has dawned on me talking about Rams Booker. Have you ever seen his guest Booker DVD? Do you know what he books on that, Oracle? This may pop you, considering what we're talking about right now. So they get him to book if the Outsiders came to ECW instead of WCW. That's his angle that he has to book. I may need to get these. I may need to get this DVD in your possession somehow, so you can explore it, because that's literally this time, right? Like he books June '96 if the Outsiders come to ECW. And I remember him being fucking infuriating on that DVD, but that's like kind of part of the charm. Like he loses track of his own faults all the time and pops himself. So I may need to watch this. If I have it somewhere, I'll get in your possession some way. That sounds like it could be a good time.
I'm always reminded when I think of Raven WCW, and we'll cover this more as we get to that point. But when he does like the skits with Canyon, Hogan apparently hated him.
Oh yeah,
like
he's driving crazy, right?
Like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in wrestling, brother. And I actually don't hate those skits only because Canyon rules. Like the one where they're like going shopping and Canyon's like. Of course, they're alluding to his sexuality, but
I think those skits. I think they're fun. I don't know.
They're funny. They're fun. Canyon. I mean, I've always liked Canyon.
part of why they're fun is because the story of Hogan hating him was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like the idea of him watching the TV and like kicking
it makes it funnier, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hogan was thinking about the minute by minutes, brother. You know, you got to keep him up. No pre-tapes. Would you like to expand any on Blue Dust, or have you covered that sufficiently?
Meanie puts in the work, brother.
Yeah,
he puts in all this stuff. Fine gimmick for the era and stuff. Never really a good worker or anything like that, but
no. Listen, brother, he still gets that gimmick out there, you know.
Yeah, he does.
I was watching the 2022 Crockett Cup. Someone had a mystery partner, and it was Blue Meanie.
Oh my God, did it pop you?
No, absolutely not. I was quite mad about it, to be honest with you, but I'll bring it up anyway.
What, did it pop me?
Yes. The idea of you watching that show, I think you would have been beyond pops. I think you'd have been in a pretty dark place, but I don't know, man. I mean, I didn't expect to be anyone good, but Blue Meanie was a bit of a kick in the teeth. Anyway, let's go back to the pay-per-view. Jericho takes the TV title. Considering what we were talking about earlier with the Cruiserweight division, this is always interesting. Jericho's own timeline. So talk us through Jericho's TV title win and just kind of his spot in general.
Yeah, he's still kind of putting it together as a worker, but it's clear that he's liked and he wins the title over Pitbull, and he just kind of gets this summer push right before he leaves, right there in the center of the TV title feud, which is basically him, Pitbull number 2, Douglas, and Too Cold, which culminates in a 4-way in July, and we'll talk about that, which is a big match, very famous one. But lots of things happen in that match.
God.
Well, the other Pitbull broke his neck, Francine turned, so on and so forth. But
I'm aware of the first part. I did not know about the second being the same match. It's pretty rough.
Yep. Yeah, it was a. But yeah, I mean, Jericho, it's weird. Like, he feels almost oddly unimportant.
Yeah.
But they clearly value him as the in-ring guy to go out there and have good matches, which was what the TV title sort of was until Douglas gets a hold of it in July. But or at least gets a firm grasp on it in July.
Yeah. And then it becomes the belt what just sits on his shoulder while he calls everyone a piece of shit. And points.
Cut my fucking music.
Exactly.
Let me shoot here for a second.
Do you think
he goes to ponytail out and shit?
God bless. Do you think people kind of fully appreciate how different Jericho was at this point in his career to what he became? His transformation is huge, dude. He's a clean slate early on.
People also forget that his first feud in WCW was with Nick Patrick.
Yeah.
Which is actually a fun feud. I don't give a fuck if money says that feud rules.
And I think it helped him in a lot of ways. Because, he's such a just...
cut promos and
blank canvas before that, and he gets to do some shtick, which, look, I mean, I don't think I'm talking out of turn. So that's saying he's done consistently for the last 20 plus years. He's always
98 is when he just exploded into
the Goldberg stuff,
98.
Famous part.
I still kind of think that's his best year ever. Which sounds crazy, but I mean, his best year is probably more 08, right? But
because so that's the Shawn stuff. Is Ray 09?
Yeah. Jericho's a good team too.
I will say, I don't think it's the top, but I will say it's been remarkable what he's done in 2022 so far. I think we all thought he was.
Oh yeah.
I think we all thought it was over, right? I mean,
right.
So, he's had a wild career, man. He's obviously one of the greats. Speaking of strange ordeals, we talked about one earlier. This one is slightly different, but it is one that people talk about a lot.
Oh, listen. Let me respond to Piranha here. Absolutely, Shane Douglas pops me, especially when you watch the unedited versions and fucking Perfect Strangers hits. Do you remember?
You were saying it lovingly, definitely, right? You were saying it lovingly,
especially when he reforms a triple threat and he's throwing out the 3 and he just looks ridiculous and Francine's coming out dressed to the 9s or maybe not to the 9s depending on her outfit.
There's a Shane
Heat
Douglas
to the
tale.
roof.
Back in the days of the Distraction, we used to review movies, right?
Mhm.
And we reviewed Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies. So Shane Douglas is in there, and he's full Shane Douglas. Like he's
that's
playing
fucking
Shane,
cool.
so he's just doing the character in a film. So he's doing like cheap heat with no crowd. Like it's really weird, uncomfortable. So like when I watch those films, I'd make notes and so I'd have bits and all of my bits were burying Shane Douglas. Like every fucking punchline was Shane Douglas. So Jeremy tweets out, "We're going to review this film," and the fucking director of the movie gets in contact and says, "I want to come on the show." Now I don't want to get into this gentleman, and bless his heart, he didn't have much to show, but he comes on and starts talking about how Shane's one of his best friends and is a creative genius. He also explained, me and Shane, we get on, we agree on everything politically, and I knew what that meant. It wasn't the most exciting news. And he said, honestly, people don't realize Shane Douglas is one of the greatest professional wrestlers ever. And I'm sitting there like, what do I do? I didn't want to bury the guy's friend to him, but it's like, fuck, everything in my notes. He's just talking about how unbearable he is in this film, Quite the moment for me, as a broadcaster, quite the moment. But bless Shane. I think even the most kind of
a piece of shit.
Exactly.
You're that piece of shit, Shawn Michaels.
Although, to be fair, okay, here's part of the reason why Shane Douglas worked in ECW to a degree. Okay, if you're a hardcore nerd, Mark, okay,
you're into that stuff,
and you watch WCW and WWF, and you get tired of Hogan, and you get tired of Shawn and DX and shit, and then you finally get to hear somebody like Shane Douglas go, "He's a fucking piece of shit."
Yeah,
it just
and the Flair stuff
you can't
too.
help but
the Flair stuff
help
too.
but pop for that,
Quickly, let me make this very clear. Please do not watch that show. JJ is aware of why. Bless the gentleman's heart. He came on with his child in his arms, and it is absolutely the worst podcast I've ever been a part of. It was ungodly, brother. Like I couldn't hear shit. This kid was screaming. It was quite the ordeal, let me tell you. And there I am listening to Shane Douglas being one of the greatest wrestlers ever. It was one of the worst days I can recall on the Fame Distraction. But nonetheless, there's this Taz Paul Varlins deal, right? Paul was a UFC guy, and this is
Polar Bear, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is famous in that the deal is that he doesn't want to put Taz over, right? But they shoot an angle. What happens? Explain it. So the promo after the brawl you gave.
The rumor is that if he put Taz over, okay, I'm going to be very vulgar here. Please forgive me, but I'm going to describe. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor was that if he put Taz over, Missy Hyatt was going to give him a blowjob.
Yes,
well, afterwards, Missy refused because she said she didn't give jobbers blowjobs or something, and then he got mad. I think that's the rumor, if I'm not mistaken.
Fucking owned. I believe that is the story. Yes, that's I think Missy has probably spoke about this at some point. So if she said that's not true, God bless.
Yeah.
But that's definitely the wrestling myth, so to speak, right? So.
That was the rumor.
So they do a big brawl, and afterwards Taz cuts a promo. This was the month's best promo for ECW. Was Taz's hit? Talk us through this angle and then the promo itself.
So basically, he beats him in this ridiculous work shoot that's not even really good, and Taz cuts this amazing promo and goes, "You thought that was a shoot, you fucking idiots!" And he just makes fun of the crowd. It's funny as shit because everybody's mad at how shitty the match was, and then he just beat him and choked him out. And Taz just called them all fucking marks and stupid. And it was funny.
God, 96 and they're pulling that shit. It's wild to think about. Joel Gertner is out as a ring announcer. Bob Ortiz is back. Do you remember Alex's Joel Gertner impression? Do you remember that, Oracle? Our pal the Contrarian. Do you remember he's Joel Gertner? It's all I can ever think of when I read or see Joel Gertner. That's just stick with me forever. But anyway, talk us through this ring announcer situation.
So this is the beginning of. So basically, Gertner had been the ring announcer for a while, and Bob Ortiz was he was the original ring announcer for ECW, and then Gertner Gertner's a smart guy and was in an Ivy League school and dropped out because he was wrestling Mark.
Mm-hmm.
He's mutual friends with a lot of people I follow on Twitter. Actually, Gertner's pretty active on Twitter.
That fucking rules.
Yeah. So basically Sandman beats the shit out of him with a cane and goes, "This guy fucking sucks." You know, he's like drunk, give us a show, he beats the shit out of him with a cane. Somebody shut this fucker up. Because like Gertner's out there like trying to get the crowd going and like trolling the crowd, and like Sandman beats the shit out of him with a cane. And then he goes, Messi, calling it Messi. And he goes, "Bring out that guy that looks like the groom on a wedding cake." And he's talking about Bob Ortiz. Bob Ortiz comes back to a mega pop, and the fans are going crazy.
Oh, God bless.
And this, of course, leads into Joe Gertner becoming a heel.
Indeed.
And eventually, within the next 6 months to a year, he's the hype man for the Dudley Boys.
How do we feel about this as an idea? Get Gertner for the 31? Problem is, you'd have to get Bob to do the you'd have to get him to do the Gertner promo, right? That's
yeah.
I don't know if that's within Bob's arsenal right now. We have a feud elsewhere. Some Dudley infighting, so to speak. Big Dick Dudley and Devon Dudley are clashing here. They're in a conflict of sorts. Talk me through this enthralling feud.
So basically, Devon's like this giant bully now, and just like literally, all he does is just like he'll be in like matches with Bubba in a tag team match, and suddenly he'll just beat the shit out of all the Dudleys with a chair, unprotected chair shots to the head.
Okay, well,
like, he'll just grab a chair and violently hit like Chubby Dudley in the head.
Well, other than the unprotected part, that did sound kind of awesome. That sounds pretty good, right?
Oh yeah, it's a really well done build. They build up all the way up to November to Remember, and of course, Big Dick Dudley's been out or whatever. And he comes back, and Devon like won't fight Big Dick, but he'll like bully the other ones.
Oh.
And like he keeps like getting away from Big Dick and stuff. It's awesome. It's a really, really, really fun undercard feud, and it ends up ultimately they sort of settle it out by the end of the year, and of course we get the famous version of the Dudleys, and they turn heel or whatever. But it's really well done. Like this whole Bubba Devon feud in '96. Axel Rotten ends up getting involved, and Big Dick, of course, is involved, and it kind of goes on through the whole year. But it's a super fun feud, and their November to Remember match from memory is pretty good too. We'll talk about that when we get to that point. But
there you go. All right. Sal Bellomo is in the FBI now. Talk us through Sal's joining the group.
It popped me huge. The FBI is incredible.
God bless.
My favorite iteration, although I love JT Smith because he's totally absurd.
Yeah.
Him, like JT Smith literally gets in a fight with Hat Guy in the front row and literally smacks him in the face and smacks his hat off his head every time. It's hilarious. It's unbelievably fun. Hat Guy's hair is like everywhere and he gets mad and like cusses out JT. It's unbelievably funny. There are things you get away with back in the 90s that you can't now.
Yeah.
But
many, as we've explored on this show so far.
Yes. My favorite iteration is Tracy Smothers, Tommy Rich, and Little Guido, which is
that's the most famous, right? What do you say?
It's incredible. The show the week after Frank Sinatra dies, and they Tommy Rich is like, "Oh, Blue Eyes, Frankie died. We gotta honor old Blue Eyes." And he's like, and people are like getting mad and booing. He goes, "Oh, come on now, some of us are in jail."
This is a good question. Good question. Better cheap heat promo. Shane Douglas and Bubba Ray Dudley.
Bubba Ray had people trying to fucking kill him, man.
Wow. Poor Shane's getting the shit kicked out.
Listen, when you go up in the front row and call some dude's wife a whore and stuff.
He was pretty cold with that.
Yeah. I mean, if honestly, if he was 10 or 15 years earlier, he would have been stabbed.
Oh, 100%, yeah. That's like, the one thing I would say.
There's no way. It's shocking he didn't get, you know.
I will say
ECW did cause a few riots. Ones that were very, very minor in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. One very famous one where the tape was, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, the 97 riot.
I don't know.
So a fan like groped Francine.
Oh yes.
And it caused a whole problem. Guess who was there?
Yeah.
Papa Hales, Dylan Hales, and my brother Drew.
Oh my god.
In Allentown, Pennsylvania. Yep.
Holy shit.
Johnny P. John Philip Havage was also there.
Oh my god.
He's on Twitter. He's done some documentaries and stuff. He does the what is it? The indie spotlights on IWTV.
Yeah.
That's Johnny P. He's the one who does those, I think.
Holy shit.
But he's like a major ECW guy. So he and my brother are the two wrestling fans that I know of who've seen every single ECW show ever. Because they were at the one show that the tape was that they told that Heyman told Feinstein, like, nope. Don't, get rid of this tape, basically. Yeah.
It's wild, man. Because I think, you're right to kind of ECW crowds were crazy, but I think you were alluding to, some of those crowds from back yesteryear that were like.
No, my family did not. They were on the other side of the building from the Riot. The Riot was across the way.
My God. Well, there you go. Yeah. All right, finally, we're going to talk about Pillman more in a moment on the WWF side of things, but he wraps up his run in ECW, makes his final appearance. How does Pillman conclude his business in Extreme Championship Wrestling?
Well, he calls the gangsters the N-word, which upset New Jack and Mustafa, understandably so.
Understandably, yes.
Which was wisely edited out on Peacock. He says some other disparaging remarks to other people that I can't quite remember. He beats the living shit out of Mikey Whipwreck with a crutch that is brutal.
I've seen that. I had not seen the first part you talked about. Carry on.
Yeah. But otherwise, that's kind of his last. That's kind of his last sort of hoorah, so to speak. There were some things that Brian Jr. probably learned from his dad that you shouldn't.
Oh dear. Well, anyway, so meanwhile, let's put a bow on ECW. Was it a good month for ECW, Oracle?
It was. Hardcore Heaven was a great show, just in terms of stories and excitement. Not a ton of great matches. ECW's not really known for that, anyways. But it was a super fun month. Yeah. Good
stuff. Right with this move to WWF, and it's worth saying, he is not merely an afterthought on this show. Right, the WWF has its own famous happenings. King of the Ring '96 is a pivotal show. It really is, and we'll get to it. Let's get straight to it. Let's get to the main part. Kind of part. There's other factors, and we'll talk about them all. But it's about Austin, right?
Let me say this real quick. Can I say something?
Yes.
I couldn't believe how good the show was.
It's honestly one of the best shows they did. Like pre.
It's one of the best WWF pay-per-views of the '90s.
Top 5. That's the best way to put it.
It's that good. Like it's actually an incredible show.
And it's done a disservice by everyone just thinking of it as purely Austin. You know?
Oh no, the show's like legitimately great. Like it's like shockingly great. Like I couldn't.
And a lot happens too. That's what I was reminded of doing. Like when you send over the notes, and I was like ordering it. I was like, holy shit. Show starts in grand fashion with your match of the month for WWF, which is a pairing that you and I have talked about, and two guys we've talked about a lot on this show. Austin and Mark Merrow kick off the pay-per-view, and they have just this like kick-ass tournament match in the King of the Ring. We'll talk about Austin's like progression positive. Let's just stop at that match because that match is like incredible, dude. What a match, huh?
Great match. Just an outstanding match. God, I keep seeing it. Like Austin's great. God almighty, Austin was so good. Yeah. I remember when I had watched a lot of the WWF stuff from 96, 97, about 5 years ago. It's actually like, and Austin's great as a character. He's so fun as a character, you kind of don't care. But at the same time, it's like, man, if he didn't get his neck broken, he was so good in the ring.
Yeah.
Like, and Merrow, what an underrated wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
That dude could fucking go, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I can't call him a great worker, but I think there was a period where he might have actually been great. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and this is the.
I feel like late '95 to.
Yes.
There's about an 18-month period for like middle of '95, probably right shortly before, maybe even late '94. He got to be really good with the Regal matches, or right? It was '93, but sometime. My point is he was so good in the mid '90s, man. Like This match fucking rules. They just build everything so well. Miro has these great spots that he hits.
Yeah.
That he just finds ways to set him up really well.
Very creative.
Austin's just he's just a throwback worker. He basically is like a 70s style worker.
He gets busted up here too, right? He gets busted up.
Yeah, his lip gets busted up big time.
He has to leave the building and
get stitched up. Yep.
Yeah.
That's why the Jake match got cut short, I believe.
Yeah, which to be fair,
wasn't supposed to go a little bit longer. Yeah,
I believe so.
It ended up benefiting because it ended up working better, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's probably for the best. Yeah, it's awesome, and it's really interesting. It kind of captures the era, like 2 WCW mid-card guys, right? Like opening up a WWF pay-per-view, and we're in the heat of that kind of battle and that war. Awesome match. Okay, so Austin, obviously, as we mentioned, the Roberts match is, it's fun, but it's weird. The promo is the real headline stealer. Obviously, you gave it best promo. It would have been pretty nuts if you didn't, right? It's one of the most famous promos in wrestling history. But
it is a great promo.
So
some people can say it's great. It holds up. Yeah,
so get into that a little bit. Austin's kind of, the first match is tremendous, but then the final one and the promo itself. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, he wins pretty decisively. Jake got beat up, by Vader, and Vader got DQ'd, and Jake's ribs are all messed up. So they protected Jake a little bit, which I honestly don't have a problem with, because not even because he was washed, but I always appreciate in older wrestling when they protect everybody as much as they can.
Yeah.
I've always been big on that, protect people as much as you can. But Austin still won clean, right? He still won. He's a heel too. God, the promo's so good. Michael Hayes is up there, Doc Hendricks up there giving the promo. His hair's shining in the light, Yeah. And Austin comes there, cuts this scathing promo on Jake, just incredible. His delivery, just the way he hits his notes so well,
it's unbelievable. Yeah,
it was perfect.
Absolutely, and it's one of those promos you kind of referenced there, and I couldn't agree more. It's it's got so much hype, you wonder if it will get you when you watch it back. And it's every time you watch it, it gets you. That is that good. Just remarkable piece of business. I'm really excited as we do this to see your read on Austin's next few months, because I'm not an expert on this part of WWF by any means, but there's a lot of debate about how much he carried the momentum immediately, or how much of it was from the Brett feud really getting things moving in the direction it needs to, So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out, watching the TV and such. So I don't know, but it's a pivotal moment in his history. WWE have kind of fairly made it that way in the history books too, right? They've spotlighted it as a big moment. So Austin 316, June 96 is something. So elsewhere, on top of the pay-per-view, we have Shawn Michaels closing out his feud with Bulldog. We talked about their match last time. You were not a fan. I remember that pretty vividly. What did you think of the sequel here? How was their feud in general? So on and so forth. Go ahead.
This was really good.
There you go.
This felt like a big-time title match, actually. I don't know if you've ever seen this one, but it's actually really good.
I don't recall it. It got a very strong rating, and I don't think I've seen it, because I know that
it feels like a title match main event. And it's I really, really enjoyed this one. It surprised me, honestly. It was a really, really excellent main event match.
So how was did the build get any more interesting for you? Because I know that they do the whole moving pieces.
Not necessarily. Cornette cuts a bunch of good promos, but I thought it was a weak feud overall, just in terms of, although the brawl in Kuwait on the beach always pops me, but to me it's but the match delivered, and I think that was nice, nice to see ultimately.
I want to go and watch this one, because I remembered the other one very well. I remember you and I both being we didn't really get why some people love it so much.
Right.
And when I saw this got good reviews, I was intrigued by your take. So I want to kind of seek this out. Again, you mentioned this show being a big one and being a good one. Taker and Mankind on this show, their first big match. It's a match I really like.
Oh, it's so good.
I think you really see why the dynamic works so well. So get into it, man. Taker and Mankind, a famous pairing, and this is kind of their first big one here at King of the Ring. Go ahead.
It's, even though I'm only 10 months in at this point, right? This thing, It's jarring, especially when you're watching it in succession and you know, in chronological order to see Taker and the way he works in this match.
Yeah.
There's a couple of sections where he comes back and starts throwing these haymaker punches on Mick, and it's like you're like, holy shit, like this fucking rules.
Yeah.
Like that's like you never see him because like
no,
I mean in the mid 2000s he's doing that all the time with Angle and whoever.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like a look in the future almost.
Right,
it's interesting,
right? And like he's doing it because he has to because Mick's freaking a psycho.
Yeah,
you know? And like they use chairs and shit, and like Mick takes like Foley takes like horrific bumps.
Shocker.
A couple of horrific bumps in this match. I can't remember because it's been a while, but I just remember like, and they pace it because they like, they do these really good peaks and valleys. Because you can it feels like a long match, but I don't even say that in like a bad way. Because it's the first time you feel like you kind of don't know who's going to win, too, which kind of helps. And then of course the finish is crazy because, you know, Bear ends up hitting Taker with the urn by accident or whatever, and causes, you know, now there's speculation going on there, and Foley ends up hitting the Manimal Claw and beating Taker clean, really in a lot of ways. Even with
huge deal
the
for
Bear
him,
mistake, but it's like holy shit, Taker just got beat. Like, and this felt to me, I think I don't know, I could be wrong because I don't know because I wasn't watching at the time, but here it felt even bigger than like Taker getting like beat by Yokozuna in the casket match, right? Because Yoko had the entire $1 Million Corporation help him or whatever.
And Yoko had been the champ before that.
Right, so, exactly.
You know, there was a certain stature that came with him.
This is the best feud in 96 in WWF, in my opinion.
Yeah, that'd probably be.
Like, the Boiler and Brawl is awesome.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
And the Buried Alive build is incredible. Those vignettes.
It is interesting that in this month, which is one of the most important months in wrestling history, WCW is focusing on the outsiders, who, while they were guys who started in WCW, they claimed fame and success in WWF. And on this show, two guys who very much struggled to break through in WCW have huge moments in their climb in WWF, right? Like it's interesting to look at, man. Austin and Mick here, who are going to be pivotal in the war ahead, right? Really interesting kind of parallels and contrasts and comparisons there. So huge deal for Mick, and obviously we know the run he's about to have. But
yeah, because I mean, like what I really like about it is like, so do this, there's the Boiler Room, Buried Alive, and then of course, really we get the debut of what I see is the Prince of Darkness Taker, which is from Survivor Series 96 to Survivor Series 98. You know, which is when he kind of becomes the sort of, God, he was insanely over as Prince of Darkness in that period. Yeah. Like, because that's when, you know, Survivor Series is the end of the feud where Bear's in the shark cage or whatever.
Indeed, yeah. Good shit, man. Paul was great.
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Yeah.
What a hard role that was.
He's great his whole career. Percy Pringle's great too.
Yes, and I wish more people had seen that stuff because I think he gets pigeonholed, and it's a great spot to me. He's iconic, but he was just a great manager. I do want to show some love to Lord Lambo 99 who resubscribed. They've been subscribed now for 2 months. He says, grinning and winning. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. We hope you're enjoying the show. We hope you enjoy all the shows here on Twitch. Thank you. Oh, how? All right. Let's look elsewhere here on this very show. There's a lot going on this show. Ahmed Johnson becomes the IC champion, defeats Goldust. Before you get into this, Oracle, I want to tell you something about Ahmed Johnson. I don't know if you know this, but Ahmed was actually, according to a source of mine, so I'm very close to the show, he's actually Kurt Angle before Kurt Angle. So it makes sense he would claim gold here on King of the Ring.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But every time. Oh, jeez. The best part about the match was actually not bad. The match was, you know, decent. It was maybe a little long, but it was actually not a bad match. Dustin held together. Ahmed hit his spots big. The highlight is when Ahmed explodes to the King of the Ring set. By the way, WWF sets were incredible at this time.
So good, bro. So good.
So awesome.
Like the balance between looking awesome but not being too much. Like it's so good. It's never been recreated well, honestly.
And they did that through like 04, 05.
Yeah.
And then it just everything looks the same, and it's so fucking annoying. See, that's the thing that bothers me, because like, as much as the Sturgis show sucked, WCW would do shows at a fucking biker rally, and it looked cool, right? Like, and they would do Disney taping shows, and they would go to Club La Vila, and you know,
it's one of the things about AEW's been interesting is like they embrace their setting, but they let buildings look differently, but they completely fail to like make sets and stuff that look different. You know,
it just
like,
drives me. I don't know, man. That's what made wrestling. That's what made wrestling fun in the late 90s, early 2000s, with shit like that.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Well, that wasn't the only thing, but you know, that was part of the whole picture. It was an important part. It was a very important part.
Absolutely, I agree. No, for sure. But the match was okay, you said.
Very good? Yeah, it was fine.
Good stuff.
Ahmed got the big win. He was going on a big push too, and the kidney injury was devastating. We'll touch on that when we get to August, and a scary injury at that.
Oh, certainly. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a shame. In all seriousness, I have the fun with the Kurt bit that famously Bobby said, but Ahmed was a lot of fun. Meanwhile, in Gotham, this show also featured the Ultimate Warrior. He is wrestling Jerry Lawler. Let's talk about Jerry's role here in the promotion as kind of the veteran heel, and then we'll get more specific in terms of this business with Warrior.
Listen, Lawler's entrance is all-time great, like horseshit. Because I don't know if you remember this, he comes out and literally cuts a promo on everybody in the front row.
Oh, yes.
And it's incredible.
Oh, he's great here, man. Like, he is what he is.
And like, of course, he says multiple things that are just horrifying, but it's just his delivery is so good. Well, you know that was a stick he used to do in Memphis in the 80s, right? When he was a heel.
I mean, Lawler is Lawler.
He used to just come out and insult the fans.
But he's fucking great at pro wrestling, right? It is what it is. We can't pretend he wasn't great at pro wrestling. It's just, you know.
But, you know, it was a great setup for him to get squashed, which is what happened. And, you know, then Warrior, we'll get to it, but he gets kicked out basically because he no-shows.
Is that this month or is that next month?
It's technically in June, but I think the tapings aren't until July.
Okay, so we saved that?
Yeah, we saved that. But
what
was it the girl on soon in the video? It was like, he has to post bail for his shows that he missed. That popped me huge.
That fucking rules. All right, well, so I look forward to there, folks. Let's talk Vader. Ramping up this push. You mentioned it earlier. Obviously, we know that SummerSlam is looming, and that's going to be a big spot for Vader in a range of ways. How's Vader coming along in the WWF?
He's kind of been in the background some, but they're really, I think you could tell with him and beating up Jake, King of the Ring, they're really starting to kind of try to elevate him back up. Of course, he ends up getting the big summer program with Sean. So, which Sean, handles very well like a mature adult. But,
exactly what we want from your top guy. Match is good. It's just
it is. It's an excellent match. In fact, looking at the SummerSlam card, that looks like a great show. I don't know if your memory's on that, but like that show looks like it fucking rules.
I only remember the main event, so I don't know.
Well, Boiler Room Brawl's in there.
I remember that as being that year. Like you could have told me Boiler Room Brawl was 97. I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't. Yeah. I'm sure if I look here, I've seen a lot of it. The SummerSlam. All right. It's still Sunny. Her and the Body Donners are having some drama here. What's up on that front?
Well, they're having some drama. I don't believe Cloudy comes in till July, but I can't remember. Which is just
another big tease for the next show, huh?
An awful.
Yeah, it's bad as it gets.
In every way. We can hold off on that for later.
Probably for the best. There's been enough bad stuff on this one. We can.
Yeah. Sonny, she's basically feuding with the Body Donnas. She's with the Smoking Guns. Who she's with? I forget how long she's with the Smoking Guns. She's with them for like almost 6 months. Smoking Guns are tag
6 months.
Yeah, she's with them for like 4 or 5. It was like 4. It might probably more 4 or 5 months, but still, it was close. It was close to 6 months.
Damn. Well, yeah, you're right. People do forget because I'd forgotten. That's pretty wild. I didn't think of it that way.
She was there for like the whole summer and into the fall.
My God.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, elsewhere, a couple big news bulletins here. We have Pillman. We just mentioned him leaving ECW. He signed with the WWF. Immediately, there's some, laying of kind of foundations for things that would soon become very important. Talk us through Pillman's early days here, because this is something, man. The way he's introduced is kind of fucking wild,
he just
right?
shows up like, doesn't he like look at Austin or whatever when he comes out at King of '96?
Yeah,
like he comes out and like cuts a promo in their Milwaukee, and they're just a few years removed from very famous serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. And
I really.
Pillman
I now know where you're going. Carry on.
Pillman has a line of, what does he say? Oh God, it's a great line. It's something about like, it's a shame Jeffrey Dahmer didn't eat this entire town or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some line.
Very Pillman. Very Pillman.
Yes, very, very Pillman-esque. He says a couple other controversial things. Shows up the next night on Raw, like wanting his paycheck for Vince. He like confronts Vince in the middle of the show. He's like, "Where's my paycheck, McMahon? Where's my pay? I can't do his.
No one can do Pillman, right?
Surgeries,
yeah, no one can do Pillman.
But
remember this? Remember the press conference?
Yes, it is. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's a great little segment. Like he's like legitimately like crying and stuff and emotional and like you pan out and it's like JJ Dillon, D'Lo Brown.
It fucking rules. Yeah.
Yeah, because I always forget JJ was like a top executive in WWE.
Yeah, man.
Like for a while in the mid '90s until he went over to WCW.
Head of talent relations, right? I think
that might be right. Yeah.
I think JR takes it from him.
Mm-hmm.
I think, or maybe there's a middleman, but
and then JJ becomes like the on-screen WCW authority figure, which pops me huge.
Yeah,
he's great in that role.
I love JJ, man.
I love JJ too. He's looked the same for 57 years or whatever.
Yeah,
but
yeah, he fucking rules. Remember when he was on Dynamite?
Do you remember when he came on Dynamite and Tully said something to him and JJ gave him like this death stare and it was incredible? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't remember what Tully said, but.
The thing I always remember that was so uniquely.
The quote with Kevin Sullivan with Steve Harvey presiding.
Well, that was odd, but that was so uniquely profound. Do you remember that? They did the Tully match. JJ was with them. And then the news broke about Crockett. Do you remember that? That was that same night. And it was like, holy shit, stuff like that is just amazing to me. The way that worked out,
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. JJ's the man. He always looked the same. Okay. Pillman is in. Let's talk about Mr. Perfect here before we wrap up. He is teasing a comeback. In hindsight, I wonder whether rather he didn't, but we know where it's going to end up.
You know what? I think he's actually pretty good in '99 in West Texas Rednecks. Even as a worker, I think
here's what I would ask you though.
He's terrible in '96 or '97, '98.
Is that '99? Is that '99 run worth the other stuff? Because I feel like I'd remember him more fondly or enjoy him more without that stuff. I don't know, man.
I love the West Texas Rednecks.
Fair. Okay.
Like I legitimately like all those like groups and stuff that they like threw against the wall in summer '99. West Texas Rednecks and Jersey Triad specifically. I fucking love. Dude, Rap is Crap is a fucking. I don't give a fuck. The rap country feud fucking rules.
That's fair. I just
that feud. Like,
it bums me out, dude. Watching him work at times. This time. When you go beyond this and like, I don't know if you've ever seen that match he had with Jarrett at TNA's early days. Fuck, man, it's like sad. Like just.
I actually think he's pretty decent in early 02 in WWF.
Well, it seems like he was just happy to be back in that set and he was kind of motivated, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, look, he's one of the great fucking like. Everyone loves Perfect. I think sometimes people kind of pretend that the WCW run was something that wasn't. Like he struggled for a lot of that run. I don't think I'm talking out turn to say that, right? Like he was not the dude that we remembered in WCW. Unfortunately, I wish he was. It would have been great if he was, but I don't know. Anyway, he's teasing a comeback. Talk us through this.
Yeah, so basically, like he like Cornette picks him as the ref or whatever for Sean and Davey, and then like it ends up being like he ends up having to be like the outside enforcer or something.
Yeah.
And he basically, if I'm not mistaken, he like kind of turns baby, doesn't he? And like doesn't.
What does he? See, this is where I always get confused.
Eventually, he goes in, joins up with Triple H right before he leaves.
Yeah.
That's not till the fall.
What is it? WrestleMania 10 where he does the deal with Luger, where he's the ref.
Or that's that's 94.
So that's 2 years prior.
Mm-hmm.
Does that go anywhere? Am I misremembering this? Because I'm now trying to figure out the time.
It doesn't really go anywhere. Yeah. I think because
like
Hennick's back was fucked, but like he kept. You could tell he kept wanting to come back, but he just couldn't.
Yeah,
you know.
Shame, man. I mean, I wish
there wasn't a commitment either on his end or Vince's end or both ends. Or
wasn't
whatever,
he a Lloyd's of London guy too?
You know what? I bet he very much was. Probably, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And you just collect that check, right? Like.
Yeah, I remember Eric talking about there was a reason they could sign him at the end. I forget where it was. There was some out that he had that like the other guys didn't necessarily.
I just remember like when on the old WWE 24/7 years ago, 13, 14, 15 years ago, I remember watching like the Nitros. They'd put them up. Remember that because they had the Monday Night Wars. You could watch them together, and they had like they had the interludes where they talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching the Nitro. I remember just watching like the June. They had so many stuff that wasn't edited back then too, because like it's the same one like the Nitro after Bash, Great American Bash, where NWO comes out to Voodoo Child, which is like one of the greatest moments in the history of wrestling.
Factual.
They're with Rodman because the Bulls had just won the NBA title again.
That's peak pro wrestling.
Voodoo Child, and remember it starts with them coming out of the limo and it follows them all the way to the arena.
Wrestling's never been better.
Yeah, because it's the first time he comes out to Voodoo. It's fucking incredible. Honestly, when we cover that month, I'm gonna have to find that. That clip has to be somewhere on YouTube or Daily Motion.
It is. I watched it pretty recently because we did a grin segment about it. Remember we talked about it. We got fired up about it.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna have to find that. Like, and I just remembered. God, I hope to have the Rap is Crap video and.
That's definitely online. That's people post that to Reddit and stuff. I'm pretty sure. So.
I bet you know what? That's probably still on Peacock too. To be fair.
I think so.
But yeah, like. I remember watching it and like they're building up to who DDP's partner was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up being Hennig.
Pop.
And like he comes out and like they do like famous for like Gene's like, ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Hennig is here. And, like just
tremendous.
I just like that's the one. They did a lot of crazy stuff during that period. Because I know I'm jumping ahead, but I remember like there was one Nitro and they were like. Raven jumped the barricade, and like NWO was all in the ring, and Sting was in the ring, and like DDP was out there, and Hennig too, I think. And Raven jumps the barricade.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bucket, man.
I've got to say this. You know, Raven pitched a feud with Hogan. He had to have, right?
Oh, multiple times over, I'm sure. Yeah.
Hogan was probably like, no way.
He'd have done it like his angle would have been that Hogan set like an unrealistic body to like, you know, strive for young teenagers out there that were more like him, you know, the outcasts in the lunchroom, you know. God forbid they take those substances you take, Hulk, and like everyone had gone, oh, you know, and Tony Schiavone would have said it wasn't on the format or whatever, you know. And he would have pitched this once, twice, and Hogan every time be like, "Nah, not happening, not a thing with him." There's no way you do that feud without Raven saying stuff that Hulk wouldn't have wanted to say. There's no way.
Because Raven's gonna do what he wants to do.
Yeah, he's gonna cut him down in the promos, and Hulk ain't fucking with that. So,
yep.
Imagine the matches, by the way. Fuck.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it'd have been brutal, man. Because it would have been the timeline would have meant that it was like Hollywood Hogan.
I wonder if Hogan ever got mad at some of the things Flair said about him on promos.
He probably got mad at any kind of slighting promos. I mean, dude's fucking nuts. Like you read the Nitro books, you'll know when Luger, Luger breaks character in the Mall of America, and he goes, "You're taking food out of my kids' mouths." What the fuck is he talking about? He's out of his mind.
Could you imagine like Hogan versus Necro Butcher?
No, but I'd like to try. You know, sounds like it'd be a good time. God, that would be wild, wouldn't it? How would Necro take like the big boot?
Probably like a little spin, you know.
Yeah.
How would Hogan take Necro's shoot punches 2 seconds into the match?
He wouldn't.
He
He
would have
just
laughed.
wouldn't.
He
He
probably
just
would've
left the ring like Luger against Brody. He's got out. Fuck that. I ain't doing this shit.
That rules.
Yeah,
Oh,
good shit. All right. How was the month for WWF? Obviously, the only company that got any wins was WCW, but ECW had a good month. Did WWF have a good month too?
Oh yeah, it was an excellent month. I think it was the best month of '96 so far.
There you go. Good wrestling across the board, brother. All right. Well, as we wrap up another edition of the Historical Oracle, any final thoughts, comments, plugs, promotions, anything of that nature, Oracle? The floor is yours as we take her home here. Go ahead, pal.
Are we going to be having the Burt this week?
We are indeed. The Burt is rocking and rolling as usual, thankfully. I believe it's the only show tomorrow, but yeah, the Burt's rolling.
Good. I'm glad. Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern after Rampage. Actually, 11:05 or 11:07 Eastern, depending on when the Oracle of Wrestling gets on the podcast. Will be the flagship Late Night Grand. Be you, myself, and confirmed shoot. I believe Bobby O'Neill will be
That piece of
not
shit.
with it. Shameful. I don't know. Don't have anything in the docket that I can think of for next week. Maybe, I'm sure we'll find something to do.
Yeah, I think we should. We'll maybe get creative. Maybe we'll do something a bit weird. We had a lot of fun. I remember when we did that Beach Blast grin along. We had a lot of fun. Right? Maybe we'll do something of that ilk. But you always see the historical oracle, the oracle of wrestling in some form or fashion. There's always stuff to be happening on the ground. With that in mind, Carl Promotions on my part. So tomorrow, the Burt, 10 a.m. Eastern. I think Monty, that piece of shit from Wrestle Purist, is going to hop on, and we're just going to talk about NXT or whatever. That's it for tomorrow. I'm going to go see Top Gun Maverick. I'm going to go in a restaurant and be a fat fuck. Leave me be. Do not talk about professional wrestling. This is not to your oracle. You can talk to me, but just generally, don't at me. To anyone in power and professional wrestling, do not do anything tomorrow. Please let me just enjoy my afternoon. We know how it goes when I go to the cinema. I want to be able to enjoy that. I want to come out and go to a restaurant without going on my phone and saying, "Oh my god, I have to go live via my phone here on StreamYard." So that's tomorrow. Thursday, we have a few things going on. We have the Burt, and we also have the long-awaited return of our friend Jay Shell. As we do a show, her and I together, where we put together our perfect wrestling promotion. Now, Oracle can tell you, he knows us well enough. Our ideas of wrestling's perfection are very, very different. So we're going to be coexisting in that regard. So that's a special show on Thursday, probably around 5 Eastern. Friday, Retire the Rankings back at the same time. And then Friday night, the Grin, as you said, as well as the Burt, obviously. So there you go.
We will be thinking of people Christian Bale can play.
Dude, have you seen the way they've kind of strategically leaked stuff about them cutting all of his scenes? Very mad.
Art.
Yeah. He's being, respectful about it. There's kids. It's like, fuck the kids, man. Fuck them. That's what I say. It's a shame.
I thought of somebody else he could play. Thinking about who would play the characters in the NWO angle. Christian Bale is Sting.
And he does it method and just sits in the rafters.
Yeah, could you imagine him? Yes.
Yeah, he installs rafters in his house and just sits up there for a year to prepare.
But the thing is, you have to start from the beginning where he's just in the pit and he's cutting the Sting promo. Could you imagine him studying Sting's promo from 95, 96?
His accent would be a whole discourse. People would be they'd feel so many ways about it, His different voices.
Yeah.
I'd be intrigued by him doing Razor. Scott Hall, I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
Because he could do both Scott's real voice and then the TV voice, and you'd have fun with that,
Yeah.
We've got to find something wrestling for him. By the way, someone asked me if it's real. It's actually, you can look it up on Google or YouTube, whatever. He actually really liked Fighting With My Family. Someone asked him about films he liked, and he put it over and thought it was great. It may pop him, the idea. I mean, I don't know if he's going to listen to us fucking idiots, but if someone reputable pitches a wrestling, we may have saying, I mean, could you imagine the content we could get out of that?
Yeah.
Him doing some weird artsy movie about some fucking indie wrestler. It would rule.
God, I wish that's what the fighter was actually about.
Yeah. Yeah, same. He's so good in the fighter, dude. Is that his best performance, honestly?
He's good in everything, man.
He is, but in the fighter, he's like, it's striking. Like, it's honestly ridiculous how good he is in that film. I mean, he should have been
American
lead actor.
Hustle too. That picture of him in American Hustle, I was like roaring with laughter when you posted it.
He had the American Hustle. That has like one of the best introductory scenes because he has the one where he's like putting the hair on, he's looking in the mirror, and he keeps like patting it, and it fucking rules. Yeah, it's awesome.
He looks great in that later movie with the eye or whatever, the Amsterdam.
Yeah.
He looks like he's going to be incredible in that.
Well, he said that he's not going to do extreme stuff with his weight anymore because he said that people have told him he might die, which, fair. But he looks pretty damn skinny in that Amsterdam flick, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
God bless. Christian
well, you know, he looks skinny as Gore, too. Maybe he's just kind of staying that.
Well, he said, now I feel like this is actual information I'm giving out on the show. I'm not used to doing this here. So basically what happened was Gore as a comic book character was very, like, brutish, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he was actually very imposing. And he only had 3 days in between, I believe, Amsterdam and 4. So he was like, I can't look like what this... And he said, basically, I wouldn't be able to compete with Chris Hemsworth anyway in terms of physically. So let's just make it more about the supernatural element of the sword. And so that's why he's kind of the way he is. It wasn't by design as much as it was by kind of default because he had to be for the other film, you know? So that was actual information for you, folks. I'm sure you're not used to that when I'm talking on the Late Night Grim platform, you know? But,
now that we've put over Christian Bale, folks.
Oh, yeah. We were wrapping up, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, tune in.
We gotta praise the...
What if on Friday, like, we just do, like, I just introduce it as those segments advertising, like, anyway, it's time for the top 10 Christian Bale movies, and we just sort of say, oh, bro, let Christian Bale play Fritz.
Could you imagine?
Oh, my fucking God. The layers there are like, he would win the Oscar for that, bro. Fritz is such a, like, tortured soul, you know? He would have like multiple, like full-on Oscar scenes where he's like big. Because, like, God, I'm not trying to be mean, but there's so much just trauma that he would be experiencing as a character.
Oh, I know.
Wow. Hopefully they're ahead of us on this. They're making the film, man. Maybe it will happen. I don't know. All right, well, there you go, folks. This is the kind of thing you can look forward to on latenightgrin.com. You know, it's a hell of a time over there. Sometimes you get some wrestling talk, but other times the whole third hour of the podcast can just be us going, what if he did this role? At one point, we cast him as Bray Wyatt. And then we displaced him for Joaquin Phoenix.
The last 45 minutes of that show were incredible.
Absolutely.
It was literally just me showing like, well, Mark Ruffalo can play Bo Dallas.
There you go.
Anybody that came to my head, and it was so stupid and funny.
The Bret Hart Green Grappler will be SummerSlam week. I'm thinking we're going to do SummerSlam edition to make it more fun because Bret's greatest hits are so discussed. I love the Austin matches, but come on, we all know it. I think we're going to do SummerSlam. Alex has struck a deal with me. He said he will watch the Wembley Stadium match if he can get the Doink Lawler double. And the Lawler part is fucking incredible, so I'm for it.
Yep.
So I think that's what we're going to do. So it'll be a part of our big SummerSlam week, which we're all very excited for. SummerSlam is one of my favorite like wrestling events ever. Like, as like in concept, not in that it's always good. It's just that what it represents, I've always found to be really fun, you know?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yep. We'll be doing that. Also the Nexus tag. No.
Well, you know, I'll get ahead of ourselves, you know. You don't have to announce anything, you know. Right, we should probably wrap this show up, right? Anyway, I'll see you on the latenightgrin.com. It's up just $1. If you haven't seen it, watch the play on Riot. I know you got a wonderful cameo from the great Oracle of Wrestling, and it is the penultimate episode of season 1. So enjoy it while it's around. We're having a lot of fun here at the Grin, so we hope you are too. In the meantime, enjoy this outro. All out. Hang on a second. What the fuck just happened? Did that freeze for you or just me?
It was odd. I don't know what happened.
I hit it. It stayed on us and then it started playing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, enjoy this outro, folks. Here we go.